2021 was not a great year for most people, and I think we're all collectively going into 2022 hoping for an improvement. Well, judging by the first 2 months, this might not be the case, but for one company, this year might actually be pretty incredible. Here is why I think Nintendo's 2022 is looking stacked. Hello friends and welcome. Now let me start this off by saying that Nintendo's 2021 was not bad by any means. Throughout the year, they released some really great games. Mario 3D World and Bowser's Fury, Bravely Default 2, there was Monster Hunter Rise, Pokemon Snap, it says here that this next one was called Pokemon Unite, but I've never heard of that, so maybe we should just skip over it. There was Shin Megami Tensei, Mario Golf, Monster Hunter Stories 2, Skyward Sword, a freaking WarioWare game, a brand new incredible Metroid entry in Metroid Dread, a new Mario Party, and then finally we had Pokemon Brilliant Die. You know what, maybe we should skip that one too. The point I'm trying to make is that Nintendo had a pretty good year last year as well. Recently though, we were treated to the first Nintendo Direct of this year, and we've now gotten a very good idea of the release lineup for the Switch in 2022. And let me tell you, it looks great. Not only are there some key Nintendo IPs coming this year, but there just seems to be so many big releases happening as well. Before we talk about any upcoming games though, we should go back to the big release that's already happened this year. For a lot of people this may be one of the most exciting games of 2022, and it came out in January, and it's Pokemon Legends Arceus. Every year a new Pokemon game comes out, and every year it sells like gangbusters, but there's always some murmuring in the background that the games are very similar each time, and maybe the series could be so much more than it already is. Sword and Shield were the best-selling Pokemon games of all time, but by this point the chatter had grown so loud. When was Pokemon going to shake up the formula? Well, enter Pokemon Legends Arceus. The first trailers for this game showed what looked to be an open world game, seeing Pokemon roaming around the world and aiming Pokeballs at them. It looked a bit bland in terms of graphics, and the frame rate, well, it looked like it was running really quite poorly. However, as someone who has now played the finished product, let me tell you this game is a completely fresh take on the Pokemon gameplay. There's less focus on battles, more focus on catching and research, new forms of beloved Pokemon, and there's even a boss battle mechanic. Sure, the world isn't the prettiest, but the frame rate was cleaned right up, and a lot of people have fallen in love with the gameplay of Arceus. So as the first big release of the year on Switch, we're already off to a good start. We've also just had quite a big addition to the online expansion pack in the form of The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask. Nintendo is slowly building up the value of their subscription service, and Majora's Mask is so beloved that this definitely ticks the box for some people. The emulation seems to have been upgraded at the same time as well, with some issues in previous N64 games being fixed. This is a good sign that things might be heading in the right direction for anyone who's on the fence about the expansion pack for Nintendo Switch Online. I mean, personally I think Deku Link looks like the stuff of nightmares, but this edition has made a lot of people happy. So these are the two main Nintendo releases so far. Now let's get on to what's coming in the future. Well, March has three main releases for 2022. Firstly, we have Triangle Strategy, which is the spiritual successor to Octopath Traveler. This game uses the same gorgeous graphics style as Octopath, but it goes for a strategic gameplay style instead. Then we have Rune Factory 5, a game that many people have been asking for, with its mix of RPG and Stardew Valley-like elements. These two look to be good releases, but the third game that's coming could blow them out of the water completely, and that is Kirby and the Forgotten Land. In 2021, the director of Kirby Star Allies, Shinyu Kumazaki, said that they were working on the next phase for Kirby, and previously HAL Labs had said that they want the next Kirby game to be the pinnacle of all Kirby games, and boy does it look like they achieved that. Kirby and the Forgotten Land seems to borrow a lot of elements from Super Mario Odyssey, and that's such a good thing. The 3D style world, absorbing enemies, there seems to be items to collect as well, similar to Mario Odyssey's moons, and the most recent direct introduced a new mechanic, which I guess I'm going to have to say at some point. They named it Mouthful Mode. Okay, so silly as the name is, it lets Kirby take on even more forms and get abilities from things like cars, vending machines, cones, he can glide, he can become a water balloon. It does look like it's going to open up a lot of platforming potential, and I'm really excited for this one. I just think Nintendo could have named their features slightly differently. April sees the return of Chrono Cross. This is significant because it allows a lot of people who didn't play these classic games to have another chance to play it. Although I admit that while I do think it's important that this kind of thing is happening, it won't be the most played game this year by a long shot. April also brings in the return of Advance Wars, and oh man, I'm excited for this one. I played the original game so much for my childhood, I even have my original game, look! There was so much to enjoy in this series. The gameplay was excellent, the graphical style was great, and the music was just awesome. I mean, just... The cast of characters was really good, each one having its own style of gameplay. Andy being able to repair units, Olaf causes blizzards, but his units are unaffected by the snow, Eagle specialising in air warfare. Playing against and unlocking each of these commanders was an absolute blast. Now, you may think I'm doing the old man nostalgia thing by being so excited for this remake, but we have to remember that Wargroove, which did extremely well in 2019, was essentially a spiritual successor to Advance Wars, so there's no reason to say that this game won't be just as popular. And the inclusion of the map maker that lets you design and share levels with friends will give the title some longevity. So I really hope that this title does well and that Nintendo then goes on to make some brand new Advance Wars games. And finally for April we have Wii Sports. Oh, sorry, I keep doing that. We have Wii Sports 2. Really? They didn't call it that? So Switch Sports releases in April, and this one came out of nowhere for me. Honestly, by this point I thought Nintendo would either have already done a Switch Sports or they just weren't going to do it at all. It's been 5 years already. But no, a fully fleshed out sports game is coming, and it's coming soon. Now personally I'm a bit back and forth on this one. Wii Sports was fun, and it was definitely a contributing factor to the Wii's success, but it did come included with the console. Now it's not quite the price of a full game, but you will have to pay for this one, and we've seen before that Joy-Con gyro aiming is not always up to par with the Wii's pointer. Nevertheless though, I'm sure it will be great, and there are lots of fans out there that are excited for this release. On to June then, we have Fire Emblem Warriors 3 Hopes. Fire Emblem 3 Houses was an immensely popular Fire Emblem game, and it's nice to see these characters come back in a new entry, even if really what I wanted was a main Fire Emblem game and not a spin-off. The Warriors gameplay doesn't really do it for me personally, but I do know people who are planning on picking this up. The other big release in June is one that not many people saw coming, a new entry in the Mario Strikers series. Battle League seems to have the same crazy personality as previous Mario Strikers games. Rock music shredding as Mario characters violently beat each other up and score goals. I mean, look at this clip, Luigi gets slammed into an electric fence. You don't see that in any other Nintendo game. Splatoon. Who expected to get not one but 2 Splatoon games on the Switch? Certainly not me. And it's coming sometime in summer. So far we've seen some Salmon Run and a bit of multiplayer for this one, and while there are definitely improvements over number 2, we're still waiting to see what it is that's going to make this Splatoon 3 stand out from the previous game. I don't have any worries about how this will sell though. Splatoon 2 still has a big player base even now that the game isn't fully supported anymore, so I'm certain that this will be a big hit in the summer. September brings Xenoblade Chronicles 3, and I have to say that the Switch has been very good for Xenoblade fans. There will be 3 mainline games on Switch and a DLC so big that it's basically its own game. There's not much more you can ask for if you're a fan of the series. They say that Xenoblade Chronicles 3 will connect the story of 1 and 2, which I did play a couple of years ago, but I never finished either of them, so I do intend to go back and play them before 3 releases. It can't really take that long, can it? Oh no, that's a lot of... Sorry guys, I can't finish this video, I have to go play Xenoblade, bye! Okay, so in all seriousness, that's the list of games that have gotten pretty defined dates in 2022. Now I'm going to quickly mention some games that are slated for 2022 releases, but that we don't have any more detail than that. These are Mario & Rabbids Sparks of Hope, Bayonetta 3, and of course Breath of the Wild 2. All 3 of these games are hugely anticipated. Breath of the Wild changed everything for Zelda. It's possible that in the end these are pushed back into 2023, you know, who knows with how things are going. But also bear in mind that we don't currently know what the big holiday release for 2022 is yet. Could it be Breath of the Wild 2, or is it something that's not been announced yet? Only time will tell, but if any of these 3 do arrive this year, it will add to an already incredible year for the Switch. Now, as I'm in the middle of writing this video, we've also just had an announcement for Generation 9 of Pokemon, titled Scarlet and Violet. And now I know that the normal pattern for Pokemon releases is 3 years between the mainline games, but I was not expecting this one so soon after Arceus. We don't have much to go on, but the assets do look very similar to those used in Arceus, so perhaps this will be the first mainline game with the updated gameplay type. The starters do look fun though. Look at this guy, isn't he cute? Adding in a new mainline Pokemon game makes this year absolutely bonkers for the Switch. Now there's one more thing coming this year that I haven't talked about yet, and in my opinion it's possibly the biggest one. The Mario Kart 8 DLC has been met with equal parts praise, confusion and disappointment from the community as a whole, but I honestly think it's a brilliant move from Nintendo. Look, Mario Kart 8 is still selling. They didn't need to release 9 yet and cannibalize sales from their own game. So what's the solution? More Mario Kart 8 tracks. And a lot of them. 48 new tracks essentially doubles the content in the base game, and it's such a huge piece of content. Not only will this bring back a lot of people to Mario Kart, and not only will it convince people who are on the fence to get on board with the NSO expansion pack, but the way they're going about this is going to give fans something to look forward to every few months. Now, being drip-fed content is typically something that I'm not a fan of, but I can see the excitement around the reveal of new tracks build up to a similar excitement level that we used to get with Smash Fighters. So Nintendo really has given their fans something to get hyped about, and it's going to last all the way through 2022 and into 2023. If they time these reveals and releases well and interspace them between their other game releases, then we're going to have so much to look forward to over the next couple of years. And that, folks, is why I think this year is going to be amazing for the Switch. But what do you think? Do you agree with me, or do you think all of these games are rubbish and this year is a complete flop? Let me know in the comments, and if you enjoyed this video, please drop a like, and I will see you in the next one.